But now I don't see those cobbles and curbs. I don't hear the blues anymore.
Rough Trade is giving away a third of the first 3 months of the Rough Trade Club plus new music membership exclusively to 101 Part-Time Jobs listeners. Become a member of Rough Trade Club New Music and you'll receive the Rough Trade Album of the Month straight to your door every month on exclusive vinyl pressing with exclusive bonus material. Club members have received exclusive pressings of albums from Sofia and Stevens, Sprints, The Last Dinner Party, Julie Byrne and Over Mono, just to name a few, this past year alone. Sign up using the promo code CLUB101POD and you'll get the Rough Trade Album of the Month, English Teacher's excellent debut album, This Could Be Texas, on exclusive Galaxy Gold for a third of the usual price. Here's English Teacher on a recent episode of 101.
How many opportunities do you get to write a debut album and have all of this, sport behind us? I don't know, I really like the idea of holding the bar as being like classic songs.
You only get one shot at a debut.
Don't want the album of the month but still want all the benefits? Sign up to the standard tier using Club 101 Pod and you'll still get the first month free. You'll also get free shipping on all orders, 10% off the bar and on secondhand vinyl in store, and exclusive access to sold out Rough Trade events. So don't hang around. Go to roughtrade.com/club and sign up with the code CLUB101POD. That's CLUB101POD and claim money off the album of the month, English Teachers This Could Be Texas, today. This offer's available to UK residents only. Do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello there, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. It's where I speak to bands and artists about navigating their way through and trying to find some sense in how they organise themselves, trying to get your name out there, trying to make it your number one thing in life, and have fun doing something sustainable. It shouldn't be a secret. It shouldn't be away from real life. You know what I mean? We should all be helping each other and lending a hand in our communities. And I'm really excited to bring on today's guests. Jen, G-E-N-N, the queer punk band from Brighton via Malta. Their debut album, Unum, is out this Friday. Co-produced by Gilla Band's Dan Fox, coming out on their own record label, Liminal Collective, which will also function as an artistic collective and a hub through which people from minority backgrounds can release their material independently. That's what we're about. And Unum is the lattice word for oneness, unity, and a sense of being whole. So this all ties together. It's a strong message, and I love the tunes. I got Leo and Sofia on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a review or a rating, or simply just subscribe on Apple or Spotify. Just that one click subscribe button does so much for the podcast and means that I can keep on going and keep on speaking to brilliant people. So if you can subscribe, that would be amazing. Thank you. All right, before we get into this chat, I'm here with Rebecca from Eka, brand ambassador for Ampolo, which is a great free app for musicians. Rebecca, could you tell us a bit about Ampolo and who's using it and why and when?
So I've been using Ampolo for a few months now. You can upload any song. So I've been playing around with some Eka bits, or I'm a saxophonist, so I play a lot of Charlie Parker and things like that, so anything goes really, and it demixes it within under a minute, so I can take out that part. So especially for jazz use case, if I'm wanting to improv, myself, I'm not then stuck with Charlie's solo. Said no one ever, but it means that I can experiment with my own, which is really, really, really cool. And alongside that, I'm kind of filming myself, seeing what I look like. It's great, and you're kind of recording that and then sharing it. It's a little bit of that kind of digital, practice room board. We're looking for a drummer, we're looking for a guitarist, with alongside all these super cool tools. And I'm using it for all the different instruments I play.
And it's out now, Ampolo. It's out there to be had. No downsides.
No downsides, yeah. Go download it and I'll see you in there.
So here's Leo and Sofia of Jen. Go give that album a listen this Friday on 101 Part-Time Jobs. 101 Part-Time Jobs. And this conversation is different for everyone, right? Because everyone's got a different context of where they're coming from. Whether that's what you've grown up around, or the bands that have been like the closest bands to you or closest people to you. And I guess it all depends. Like when I think about myself, I grew up in a town where there was lots of punk bands, and it was around the time that it was like Gallows and Enter Shikari, and sort of when we became fans of them, they had sort of MySpace demos, and they'd play youth centres around Watford, and it was like the most exciting thing ever, because it felt like there was like 300 of us going to the gigs and having loads of fun, and like sort of shortly after that, Kerrang and NME picked them up, and they were going on these massive tours around the world. And so I wouldn't have articulated like this at the time, but looking back on it, all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, if you really practice and if you try really hard, then maybe you can make a life out of this for yourself. A life, even if it's for like the short term of going on tour for a couple of years and releasing some albums. Like that was an idea that had such a profound impact on me. And then later on when I was touring, something that I never really learned, and in a way I'm still like confused about, which is like 250 episodes into this podcast, there's still no right or wrong answer of how bands or artists or anyone do it. It is really like a trial and error situation, isn't it? And like seeing what works out for you. I mean, when I'm saying all of that, what does it make you think of?
Just I feel like everybody seems to have such a different story.
I've got mixed emotions as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you end up comparing yourself a lot, which is a habit that we've acquired throughout the time, but we're trying to kind of like slowly move away from it, because it's really unhealthy for various reasons. And I think that we see jobs nowadays, like in our band, as a way to kind of like conquer your dream little by little, not as an enemy, so to speak. We used to like say, oh, if you have a job, you're a failure, basically. But no, in actual fact, a job can sustain you, can, slowly kind of like help you achieve what you want to achieve in life, and whilst letting you do that without spiraling into a depression because you don't have any money, and, you're not privileged enough to do it maybe without a job. So, I've got mixed feelings about it, really.
Yeah. It's almost like it kind of sets the foundation, and you can then take your art to those further places. If you've got a roof over your head, you've been able to pay your bills, like just being able to access all those things on top of what you do, like just to be able to get up and do it. So
yeah, and in from like having a roof over your head and being able to eat, I mean, emotionally and physically, you got to be healthy. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
100%.
That's such a hard thing to balance as well.
Yeah, because you want to go for it. You're like, okay, here's this thing. We think it's good. Other people think it's good. We're playing gigs. There's that temptation to be like, okay, let's try and do this like as soon as possible. I often think the everyone's different, and I was going to say like the bands that I like look up to, I think that's almost like irrelevant because it does like come down to people by people basis, and I think like maybe a common thread of like those bands who have built their own worlds is that it's been a slow like build your foundation from the very bottom up, and that takes years and years and years.
Definitely.
100%. Yeah, and I know you've had the lads from John who are a prime example of that as well. You know, they've been like 10 years, 11 years in the making, you know, doing odd jobs there and then kind of thing, like slowly progressing. Yeah, sometimes I guess I don't know, is it luck? Is it not luck to kind of like have your career just like shoot forward in a really short span of time? And sometimes you just gotta keep on digging and digging and digging until maybe you rot. Maybe not. I do not know.
I think it's quite nice to see that progression in like real time as well, where you're working loads and loads and then you're trying to squeeze in like your creative projects in between all these like little gaps of time that you have. And then as sort of the time goes on, you're doing your day job maybe like a few hours less one week and then chipping away at it and away. And I think that seeing that progression for me, where I used to work like full-time plus and then the band, which is almost like full-time plus, and then now being able to sort of compartmentalize your time a little bit more. It's still hectic, but you're able to see it kind of get a little bit easier as time goes on, but it is very gradual, but paying attention to that is important, I think.
Does it get easier because you've learned more about yourselves and learn about how things work? It's like that taking that time to get there, and you know, having those times you're like, fuck, I don't want to fucking go to work today. I want to go to the practice room. Everything that all those that's like one of 1,000 little examples of this, and that's when you get to a point you're like, well, we've learned how to deal with this. We've learned how to kind of carry that weight. We've learned how to do in this scenario. Like, you're going to learn lots of lessons.
Oh, 100%. You learn more about boundaries as well, because you you deal with so much crap. Even just going on tour, staying in places and being in situations that aren't quite ideal, and then and then like having 3 hours sleep and then going to your day job, and then maybe a few months later you're like, that was really, really bad and made me really ill, so I'm not going to do that again. It's all kind of things you sort of learn as you go along, so I do think it does teach you a lot about boundaries, and there's a certain amount that we have to do, but there's definitely an amount that's like, we should never do that. No, let's not do that because it's not good or healthy.
I feel like that's such a big thing in like full bands. It's like, we take everything we get offered. And it can be a bit of a trap.
I suppose sometimes you got to, because maybe opportunities do not come your way as often, but that's also quite toxic sometimes to think that, okay, we're not so lucky as a band and we don't get as many opportunities as XYZ, so we have to like work the same amount because else nothing else might come our way. It's like the end of the world kind of thing, but in actual fact you also need to preserve yourself from burning out, which we're kind of like trying to practice now as a band, because I feel like we've got so many health issues all together, and yeah, we really have to preserve ourselves because we don't have any other options really, because it does get in the way sometimes. So in order to do what we love, you also have to kind of like learn how to say no to certain things, or maybe go about them a different way.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to remember that the value is you. Like the value is the band. You know, you're the currency.
Yeah.
And other stuff should be a decision for you, not a prerequisite or an obligation. It's their decisions.
Definitely, yeah. Totally agree with that.
Well, when you say kind of health issues, is it? I mean, absolutely fine if you don't feel comfortable talking about it. But are they the kind of issues that like we hear about a lot? Are they? How have you been able to get through those health issues with touring?
I can only talk about me personally because I recently got diagnosed with endometriosis, which is not something that a lot of people talk about. And it's been like, a ripple effect really when we tour, because when you can't really control when you get a flare-up, and a flare-up can also come about when you're in a really stressed out situation like touring. So it's all really physical. It's just like any other chronic pain really. You kind of have to learn to conquer through the pain, but sometimes that's also unhealthy to do that, because you're just increasing your chances to get more flare-ups. So there's really no right and wrong, but what I can say is that the band has been really supportive about it. We've got ḻENN, who has also chronic pain. So yeah, we're basically grandmas of the band. Fia also has sinusitis all year round. Bless their heart.
Yeah, I'm currently going from like ENT to ENT, trying to sort this stuff out. And yeah, like Leo was saying, it's crazy because it's nowhere near as severe or anything. Like I can kind of live with it, but little things like flying. I have eustachian tube dysfunction, so flying I'll get an ear infection like every single time I fly. But like we'll have to fly for like one show sometimes, and it's kind of like weighing up like, oh, this show might be really great to do, but then it might make me really unwell. And I think we commonly face those sort of challenges as a band, trying to sort of sacrifice like ourselves in the now to kind of hopefully get to better, more comfortable places in the future where we are working and doing a little bit less. And it's a bit tough, but I think it's important that we have that understanding with each other as well. We kind of look after each other, which is good.
Great.
We do train a lot as well, to be fair. Like, I mean, we're all into sports, so we kind of like try to practice pain, but control pain every day.
What kind of sports can you practice pain?
I don't know, like for example, running until I feel like my heart is about to come out of my mouth and I'm about to fall. Or train whilst I have a flare up, so that is like controlled pain, so that I know that if I can conquer that pain and show up for a long run, you know, I can show up for a tour and have no problems when I'm in pain, because it's not going to be as difficult, you know. So we train through pain.
Brilliant.
You're hardcore.
There's a big problem in music, especially guitar music, of this feeling of like, let's get pissed at every gig, let's not worry too much, let's not really care, let's just kind of like fling it to the wind. I don't think that really works. No. I mean, it didn't work for me in the end.
It's so unsustainable. Like, I've seen it, and I was in bands when I was a lot younger as well, so it was just common practice where, you know, we would do that. But I think we're like the kind of band that drink herbal tea before we go on stage, or like we'll have like a lemon sip on stage, or Leo's like quite a few times been sipping away at cough syrup like mid set. That's the kind of band we are.
That's funny. Not too much cough syrup. That'll get you out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, I didn't know that it like there were a couple of times where I had to sing when I've got like laryngitis or a bad cold or something, and no one told me that it's a laxative. So I would be mid-step and I'll be like doing high knees and dancing about like a maniac, and then I'm like, uh-oh. Mr. Happy,
Dangerous.
the Christmas boop.
Hey, we got to look after ourselves. That includes bowel syndromes. Includes you got to look after your large intestine. Oh, you got this single coming out when we'll release this episode in November. Calypso's such a great EP. I was saying to Sofia before we jumped on the call, Leo, that Romores is such a great tune, and I think that there's this thing on the record that there's that kind of repetitive, kind of functional nature to it. It's really great to dance to.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Is that something that you kind of stumbled on? That kind of or like motoric almost kind of feel?
On Calypso as a song or
on the EP, but you know, like sort of in your time in Jen's time.
Okay, so these are singles for our upcoming album, the ones that we've released already. How many? I think there's 4 out already, or 3.
Yeah, 4. I think so. There's like a reprise, there's a night,
4.
Calypso.
Yeah. I think kind of some of the songs have come about from a riff or an idea, and then we've kind of developed it into a song, and then some have come about just by like messing about a little bit. And like I remember with Romores, that was almost like quite dancey because we came up with that sort of catchy intro that was like, oh, I wanna stay, and we were kind of just messing about and like you
were the catalyst, man. I swear to God, you were the catalyst for that little sing-along thing, because you were like usual doing your own thing whilst the others were just taking way too long to set up. We were just doing like a really nice groove, and yeah.
I mean, was that Romores? Maybe, yeah.
That's funny. The rest of the band taking ages. You're like, fuck this.
But then like Calypso came from what Janelle came up with really, really beautiful like riff and showed it to us, and it was like a melody. She just showed it to us, and at first it was quite different, and then we all loved it, and we developed it into a song. So I think they've all come from quite different places, but one thing we can say about the album is that a lot of the songs, they feel coherent and they kind of go together, but they also don't. Like they all have separate identities, and they're quite
they
cool.
all come from the heart, really, like genuinely putting your heart out there in a way. We're not trying to really fit in a box. It's just literally what we were going through at that point in time, and I feel like we give a lot of... Can you swear in this podcast?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, can I say shit?
Yeah.
shit.
We give ourselves a lot of shit, sorry. For kind of like... Yeah, for not...
She'll be swearing in Maltese in a minute, and then you'll wish you didn't say yes.
La Madonna here. No, because it's just we kind of like got in touch obviously with loads of labels and loads of people, and then we ended up taking the decision to self-release it. But it's always that kind of like heartbreaking thing where people will tell you, oh, this doesn't really fit into this, or this is not what we're looking for at the moment. Right. So it's kind of like quite melancholic really, and upsetting when your band doesn't fit in a box, so to speak, or your music is not on trend kind of thing. But Alice, we're really happy with the product because it's just literally us. So we worked really hard.
So that kind of feeling of that element of being a band, of being artists, where you're sending it out and you're hustling, that element of that, the feeling you get from hustling, that's worked its way into the songs, has it?
Oh yeah, I'd say so.
That's interesting.
I mean, even just like when we were recording the songs, like both me and Leanne went to track drums and bass, and we were both like sneezing in between takes, like we were both really ill at that time. And then even just how some of the stuff on the album has come a lot later, almost by accident, but purely because like we haven't had the time, or I don't know, like we'll be just messing about, and then like for example Days and Nights, which was our second or third single that we've released for the album, that we pretty much wrote that song like a week or two before we recorded the album. It just came from nowhere almost. But a lot of the
lyrics
stuff
and the feeling is like comes from that melancholy, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, of like trying to like work it out. It's real life shit.
Yeah, and we were all working full-time jobs as well during the album, so it's really like having like loads of kids, you know,
at once, and then trying to feed them all, and then because some of the stuff I said that Days and Nights came later, but some of the stuff came a lot earlier, and they were just bits and pieces of a song that like we kind of almost had to like go back to like the first page every single time to like be like, okay, we need to finish this song and then finish that song, and then, you know, and there are 11 songs on the album, so I still think now, like I don't know how we did that. I don't know how we did that, like with leading the sort of chaotic lives we were living at the time, and
100%, and like
I don't know how we did that.
We tried to do so many things at once. Sometimes was also touring. I remember we had to go up north as well, and we had to like do a gig in the middle of it, didn't we? Like I can't remember. Yeah.
Just add it, spanner in the works.
Yeah.
I mean, do all this. You say it's like having loads of kids and it's like chaos all the time. I mean, ironically, that makes you someone who, you know, nothing's below your pay grade, you know, in terms of, you know, being able to do other stuff, you know, any other job that is like really demanding. You've got some serious experience to just like spin a lot of other plates in anything else in life that you're going to do.
Definitely, yeah. I get it sometimes with my job where I'll have a few days booked off, but for band stuff, and then I come back and they're like, oh, did you enjoy your time off? I'm like, it's work and it's very hard. Like, I'd much rather be here.
It must be hard to say that without kind of almost kind of like sounding like snarky or something else, but in a kind of matter of fact way, like, oh no, like it's what we like, but it is also like
really hard to be in the
industry. Work. You're managing yourselves.
Yeah,
it's quite weird actually, because like for example, this job that I'm doing now, which you might hear a couple of emails and Teams notifications coming through because I'm technically doing my day job right now. But
double duty.
Yeah, they for example do not know what I do because I'd rather keep that as a little secret in a box, just because people judge you sometimes when you do these things, or they think that you're not capable of doing your job because they just got this idea of you. But there were times where, like, when I was a cabin crew, for example, I'd just be like in 4 countries in one day and then go like do a show, and Fia would pick me up from Gatwick and we'll just drive straight through the gig, and I'll still be wearing my cabin crew uniform, and I'll be like, what the fuck, man? Honestly, like, I haven't even slept in like so long, in like 3 days.
This is when you were still living in Malta, so she'd fly in on a shift, play a gig, and then get back in her uniform and fly back to Malta. Like,
no way. So could you work out your shifts as cabin crew like around the gig, or would the gig have to be around it?
I think you blagged a lot of that. I don't know how you did that. But we made it happen. It worked. I was getting random calls at like 3 a.m, like, oh, I need to get here and I need to get back to there, and
wow.
So let's just.
Leo, tell us what being cabin crew's like.
It was lovely. It did kind of like help me traveling and living between two countries, which is Malta and the UK at that point in time. But honestly, I was so exhausted and burnt out constantly. My mental health was on the verge of just like tipping off, and yeah, I wasn't going through a really nice period at that point, because I was just like, don't know, drinking a lot just because I needed to stay in the right place when I'm gigging, you know, and pretending to be this someone, and then keeping up appearances because I'm quite a little introvert, so that job requires you to be like a real extrovert, so to speak. And you know, just like not a really nice period, but it was very enjoyable. Like, I still have friends from that job, and I don't know, it was fun while it lasted, but very short-lived. And thank the Lord that I moved and quit that job, because I just couldn't handle it anymore. All the chaos.
And that's hard to kind of recognize, because I feel like it's kind of human nature to want to, you know, show up and not complain or not kind of give up, I suppose. Like, there's a lot of, like, giving up sometimes no one really wants to do. So, but it's so important to say, okay, I recognize this isn't good for me, I'm going to stop it.
Yeah, I guess it's just, again, saving enough money, for example, or not saving money at all, or just like choosing the right time to move to another country without having people helping you out to kind of like move to another country. Realizing that the band really needs you, but you also have to pay the bills and this and that, and it's just like catastrophic, really. I don't know, but we never really depended on anyone, because we couldn't quite depend on anyone. So from the financial side, we always had to like, figure stuff out, if that makes sense. Yeah,
it does. How about you, Sophia? What is a job that you've worked that has been real kind of up against it in terms of playing gigs and playing in Gen?
Yeah, I mean, I've this year, I feel like the two sides of my work life that I'm going to probably talk about are so wildly different that it will probably make you laugh a little bit. But the main job that I was in, for the most part, being with Jen, I was working in complex care, and I was in that job for 7 years, which was so hard. Like, it was, like a lot of people say, rewarding and all the rest of it. Definitely for the first few years, when I was able to when I was more focused on that in a way. But yeah, there was so many times, too many times, where I'd be away. We'd be away touring or whatever, and then I'd have to do a 12-hour shift the next day, and I'd often feel like I was constantly getting someone else ready for their day, like before I was ever really ready for my day, or just that kind of.
What's complex care? Sorry.
So I was working in the care sector, but specifically with like quite complex needs. So the person I cared for required 24-hour ventilation, so I was completely tracheostomy trained. Wow. So we had to do quite a lot of like specific hands-on sort of. Yeah, it was just quite a physical care job, really. Quite specific, complex needs I was working with, and it just was, in contrast to the band, like, it's just not the kind of job that you can like go home and just switch off. Like, you take all that stuff home with you, and then you're trying to be in two places at once. And I'd often be away with the band and then just constantly thinking about work and like how work is and how everybody is and and it's just such a it requires so much of your time and energy,
emotional
energy that it's like impossible to do alongside any other job, regardless of what it is. It is just like you need to almost like sacrifice a bit of yourself or a lot of yourself to be able to do that kind of job. So I finally stopped doing that after 7 years.
Are you the kind of person, like, do you think you have that kind of personality that's why you were attracted to it?
Yeah, oh, hands down. Like, it started off like, I always knew, like, my mum's a nurse as well. Like, I always knew I wanted to get into like nursing or care work, or working with children, or working with special needs, or anything. I wanted to do that kind of job. And I think when I started out, I had my interview when I was like 19. But I think I was also quite naive, like we were talking about earlier. Like, as time went on, I kind of was more aware of my boundaries and how often I'd overstepped my own boundaries purely because I cared a lot or because I wanted to help. And I was often being left, pouring from an empty cup and being left with a lot of stress. And I learned a lot from doing that kind of work. But like, I could never ever go back and do something like that. It was very much, in a lot of ways as well, like, as time went on, they were quite understanding with flexibility. Like, I was able to get a lot of time off. I'd kind of established a bond and somewhat of a healthy working relationship in that context. But it felt like even if I had 2 weeks off and went back for a day, I'd feel like I'm completely at zero again. Like, it was very, very draining job. I hope they don't listen to this. But no, and then I went this year. I left. I wanted to leave. Like, so 23 is like my lucky number. So like, I'm going to go into 2023, like, new start, like, handed in my notice at the start of December. I left, and then this year I spent like January and February kind of like out of work and just figuring stuff out. Went to therapy, kind of, I think it was very much needed as well. I was actually able to focus on myself and go, okay, what do I need now that I'm not sort of taking care of someone else? So I went to therapy, and now I drive an ice cream truck.
No way.
Yeah, that's what I do. And it's like the least stressful job. Like, it's just like I always joke about this. I probably say the same thing again, but like I went from like trying to sleep at night thinking, oh my God, is this person going to live or not? To now being like, probably the biggest thing I could worry about is, oh God, I forgot to give someone a flake earlier. Like, it's just not stressful. It's just not, it's like, I get the odd busy day, which is like, oh my God, I've made hundreds of ice creams today, but like, it's just no way near as draining. It doesn't, and I quite like it. I get to drive to like really nice locations. I set up for the day, like Devil's Dyke, Ditch and Beacon, Berlin Gap. And I stay, and I can eat as much ice cream as I want.
So how does it work? Sometimes you go past a house where there's an ice cream van in the driveway.
Yeah.
How does it work? Do you like have like is it a hiring scheme almost, like you kind of?
I work for a family, so they've like a family business. They've got a few ice cream vans. They do events. And then they have like these contracts like with National Trust sites. So they have just like a few of us that they send out to different sites. And then, I need to figure out what I'm going to be doing in the winter, because obviously things will slow down then. So
you can sell drugs outside from the ice cream van.
People always ask that, like, oh, do you sell drugs? I'm like, no, that's like such a, but no, I actually quite like it. Like, I do complain the odd day, but I always take myself back to like me a year ago and go, like, this is not bad. This is not bad.
How did you meet the family? I've never seen an ice cream van job advertised, because I guess they'd be inundated with applications.
Honestly, I saw it. Like, I was just looking for jobs, like not hearing anything back. It was so hard to look at the start of this year. I also felt like really under sort of qualified for everything. I just kept hearing back from care agencies, and because I was just like overqualified for like a lot of jobs. I'd only ever really done care and a little bit of stuff like Subway when I was 16. I'd only really done that kind of stuff. So I wanted to work in like a cafe or a bar, and it was just like, nope, need experience. And then I saw like a Facebook ad, and they'd almost like, the advertisement was literally like, you read it and you're like, that's my dream job. Like, it was like, drive to amazing locations, and it had like pictures of the viewpoints for each of the vans, and it was like, money was good, weekly pay, and I was like, I want to do this. And then I just reached out, and I kind of like proper went for it as well. Like, I wrote a cover letter, And I think they really liked in my interview that I was coming from such a stressful job to something like this. And he was like, this is not stressful. He's like, you're going to love it. And he was like, I really like you. Like, let's do this. And yeah, I get along well with the family, and it's been quite nice.
That's fantastic. What's your favourite ice cream if you had to pick one?
So I don't actually have dairy. I'm a vegan, but we've got some really good like Purbeck vegan ice cream. Like we've got this chocolate and raspberry one, and a waffle cone. We've got vanilla, like a really nice vanilla one. I probably like the chocolate and raspberry. Sometimes I have like a scoop of each.
Yeah.
And all the sauces of and we got like Biscoff pieces. Like sometimes I'll put like Biscoff pieces on, and like strawberry sauce. I get like quite creative with it.
That stuff should be illegal, that Biscoff stuff.
Yeah, it is good.
You get hooked on that.
Uh-huh.
And what a great place. You know, when me and my girlfriend, we love getting ice cream. If we're going for a walk and we see an ice cream van, we always kind of look at each other, and it's like, she'll start it. She'll be like, do you want an ice cream? And like, that's like the peak of our day. So
it is. We're a novelty. Like people get one just because, sometimes like at Burning Gap, it's a lot of tourists. People just get one to take a picture, like literally. Or it's just like you see it and you're like, oh, you're here. They're there, so I've got to have one. Like,
and people coming up to you, that's the highlight. At least one of the highlights of their day for sure.
Yeah, hands down. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, that's great. Between between being an air host and ice cream van, these are two of the best I've ever had. Thank you so much. This great stuff.
Worries.
It's so good to learn a bit more about you. You know, like I said, I've been listening to the songs, and Roma S is my favourite. It's such a tune. So yeah, it's been really good to meet you. Thanks so much for being up for doing this.
No worries.
Thank you, honestly.
Thank you.
I'm a fan, and thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
The world, to kind of like have people like yourself supporting our music. So thank you, honestly. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Just to end with, I like asking people about their kind of work fails. Like I've always been one to kind of mess up at work and kind of, drop a glass working behind the bar, or, I'd like kind of, especially when I was a bit younger, I was always hungover and always kind of get told off. And one job I was kept on probation for like 6 months. And just because I had like a shit boss, basically, she was kind of a bit of a bully, really. And so I guess that's a sad example. But if you could, like, I find like, especially in like kind of a LinkedIn generation, and like you said, Sophia, when you're applying for so much, you never hear back, or you're overqualified, underqualified. I feel like in our generation, that like so many people basically have the same resumes. Like everyone's CV is basically identical. Maybe you did A level, maybe you did uni, you've had a few. It's just so hard to get a job. And I think part of this kind of ecosystem on LinkedIn is like, I'm the best person to do this job, because of course that creates all this competition. So the reason why I like hearing about it, because I just want to like provide a bit of light relief to like that idea that everyone has to be perfect at everything, because it's just not fucking true.
Trust is not 100% not. Like, I think, I don't know how I stuck with it, but when I first moved to Brighton, I started selling insurance over the telephone, and you get like all these like white Tories saying all sorts of racist shit to you, because obviously I've got an accent, blah blah blah. And it wasn't the first time when I tell them to fuck off, honestly, like, cut the phone line down, or just like, because they're so mean to you, and there's no reason for that. And like I remember this one time, there was this like douchebag on the phone, like telling me that I don't know how to do my job, basically, because I couldn't give him a free fridge or whatever, And I was like, well, you're certainly entitled to your opinion, sir. And he was like, how dare you be so rude to me and say that to me? And I was like, well, yeah, you're just entitled to your opinion. I'm never going to agree with you that I'm not doing my job right, because I am. So, like, what do you want me to say, man?
That's so funny. And you could have said anything and he'd be like, what did you say?
Yeah, literally. Like, I could have just said, okay, and he'd still be mad at me for no reason. And then they'd be like, can you just get me an English person, a British person to speak to? And I'd be like, yeah, go on then. You'll have till Christmas, probably, to find a British person, because all the immigrants are doing this job. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's it. That's that stuff on a ground level, isn't it?
So yeah, that was bloody hell the worst job ever you could ever do, honestly. And like,
how did you react to that? When like, other than sort of being polite, but also kind of giving it a little bit back, a little bit of attitude back. Was that the best way to deal with it?
No, obviously not. I mean, by the end of that, when I knew I was just gonna have to quit this ASAP, because I was really being a bitch to the band as well. They kind of like projecting all of my bad juju to them, bless their hearts. Then I started to be sassy. I was like, what? I don't care anymore. You want to fire me? Fire me. I don't care anymore.
Great. And you realise those jobs don't really mean as much as maybe you thought they did mean.
100%. I did think after 3 years doing the job, I was like, do you know what? I'm not capable of doing something else, because they get you, like, they make you think that you're worthless, that you're a little piece of shit, like not worthy of any other job but this job. That's how they make you feel. But then you get away from it and you're like, well, I've got all of these other qualities that my manager failed to mention to me. And I can probably do something else, maybe.
Definitely. Yeah, it's control, isn't it? Get away from someone trying to control you like that. How about you, Sophia?
I don't know if I can really think of any off the top of my head.
I think it's different for someone who has like a very
I mean, I'm just trying to think as well, like even this summer and last summer I've done bits of festival work as well. I feel like this is going to sound probably more ridiculous than ice cream, but like for one of the festivals, I work with a company called Bubble Inc. and we're professional bubble blowers.
What?
Yeah, so we're technically like bubbleologists, like it's an actual the official terminology. But we do like bubble shows and sell bubble toys, and I was just trying to think if anything silly happened there, because you're in a shop that's like soggy and you're around loads of bubble mixture every day. I mean, one thing I will say is Sam Bubble Man is his name. He's like 12 times Guinness World Record. He like blows bubbles as big as buses and stuff. And it's like this known thing that in this crazy bubble mix, I'm going to tell this story, like my girlfriend's probably looking over at me like, ooh. So there's like a secret ingredient in this bubble mix, and everyone comes up to the shop and they're like, what is the secret? Like, what is it? What is it? And for the first like this I was using, as this is happening, you're watching all these kids like play with all these giant bubbles, and you know what the secret ingredient is. And anyway, so it happened, like I was there just a few weeks ago. A woman come up to me and she said, what is it? And I said, I can't tell you, it's for... Kid was with her, and I said, I can't tell you, it's for adult ears only. And the kid's going, what is it? What is it? What is it? Kid walks off. I just whispered in her ear, anal lube.
How did she take it?
And she just walked off, and she was just like putting her hand up, like, yes, like laughing, sort of like laughing.
What the fuck?
So is it actually, you weren't joking?
Apparently it is. Yeah, apparently it is. Like that's what makes the like really big strong bubbles. It's Yeah, if you look in the deep corners of the internet, you'll probably find it somewhere. But
Brilliant. I love the idea of Sam, being like doing some real academic, scientific research, really like on the chalkboard, and coming to the solution and being like, oh, I guess it's KY jelly. I guess it's something.
It's got to be like what else would it be? So good. But that's probably like a highlight of my summer. Just like the odd time, I'm pretty sure, because my girlfriend does the same thing. She's done a lot more festivals than I have with them, and she's told quite a few parents, and like the reaction just never gets old.
Brilliant. Sophia and Leo, Jen, thank you so much for being up for doing this.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Of course. So there they were on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Is Jen. Their new album Unum is out on Friday. Go and listen to it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe on Apple or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this. Leave a rating or a review if you'd like to go that far. All of that helps me and the show so much. So cheers. Looking forward to listening to this Jen album on Friday. I'll be back tomorrow with an episode with A Savage. See you then.
Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.